Good evening, good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. WeatherBrains episode number 961. This is for the 17th of June, 2024. Getting close to the official arrival of summer in terms of astronomy. I'll give you a little secret here. We're actually recording the show on Thursday, June 13th, meaning this is a Thursday night special, but most people listen. This will be dropping to all the podcast clients and apps on late Monday, the 17th, early Tuesday, the 18th. But whatever, we're glad you're here. We'll have a Thursday night special. The reason for the early recording time here is the fact that I will be taking a week off. It happens, very rare, but it happens. For those that are new here, typically I take 3 weeks a year, weather permitting. The first comes in the third week of June. The second is at the very end of July, the 1st of August, and the third is the week of Christmas. And the second and third weeks are always in danger due to the possibility of tropical activity with the late July, August week, and then anything from snow to tornadoes the week of Christmas. That is a wild week, Bill, to late December in Alabama. What happened?
I remember watching an NBA basketball game on Christmas Day with a significant tornado on the ground in Birmingham. So yeah, you're
That was
right.
2015. That was the famous little situation where I got the first email I got after that, and the warning process worked well. It could have killed a lot of people. It was a good warning.
Right.
The dissemination was good. All the local people were on it, even though it was Christmas Day. But this was Christmas Day, 2015. Joy to the world, peace on earth, goodwill toward men. The first email I got when I got back in the office said, you should have been aborted by a coat hanger. Thank you and Merry Christmas to you too.
That's ridiculous.
This was Cleveland versus Golden State, and that means at the time it was LeBron
Steph
versus
Curry.
what?
Steph
Curry.
Curry.
Um, and so, yeah, and we've had many an interesting weather event on Christmas Day. We had snow in 2010, pretty good little snow event here. First snow I have seen on Christmas Day in my life, and I'm about 700 years old. But typically it's it's something to do with flooding or severe storms. So everybody's at the AMS thing. I wonder if we're gonna get a live shot from AMS
I
in Myrtle
hear
Beach.
Kim is going to be on. Our guest fell through, James. So James A and I were talking about a homegrown show. But then I got a text from South Carolina that Kim is planning on being part of the show tonight. So we'll just take it
The
as it comes, I
commissioner,
guess.
the commissioner. Look, she's a commissioner. She can do whatever she wants to. I mean, come on, you get to
Oh,
a
yeah.
point in your life where you run the joint. So she is a very big deal. So that's
You probably
outstanding.
won't call her the tallest hog in the trough, though, right, James?
No, that's inappropriate. Yeah, I hate that they do these AMS broadcast communication workshops every year in the middle of June, the worst possible week for me. I can never attend. I went to one in Nashville.
Hmm.
Goodness, it's probably been, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago because they slid it back a little bit. But for those that don't know, I volunteer at a church and I do children's ministry. And the biggest event of the year is VBS, which is this week. And it involves intense energy. Um, and I'll just put it that way.
Are you done, or does it go through tomorrow, James?
Goes through tomorrow.
What have
We've
you
got
played any
hundreds and
wild
hundreds.
characters or anything that
Well, every year
would
we
be
have a theme.
interesting?
This year the theme is scuba. So we use heavy video elements, and so we shot with full scuba gear underwater with a GoPro camera this year. And I have never done that in my life, and it was fascinating. I thought it was great. I think once you get used to it, it's really cool.
Mhm.
Um, but we were going to do it at Blue Water, which is this big scuba diving park, but the crowds are so massive, and we're just noobs, and so we opted for a big swimming pool, which worked great for our purposes. So, and we had no exploding lungs, no instant death. It worked out fine.
No
Uh,
cases of the bends or anything like that,
no,
huh?
no bins. Last year we did Space and Rocket Center up in Huntsville. They were great. We shot the video elements up there. We've been all over. We've been to Gulf Shores. We shot at the Cave, DeSoto Caverns. We have we shot at the Alabama State Capitol one year, and we were dressed like Robin Hood, and we got the total looks like we were just total creepers. In fact, when I was in Gulf Shores, I was dressed like a pirate, dreadlocks, the whole thing. And one of the Gulf Shores police officers thought that I was a perv, a total creeper. And I thought the guy was going to lock me up. But thankfully, some people on the beach recognized me. And no, he's just weird. He's
just,
harmless.
just
So
another day at the Floribama.
that's right. I mean, come on. I mean, listen. I mean, some guy dressing up like a pirate. I mean, come on. That's what you do down there. I mean, it's no big deal.
Yeah, grab a mullet and toss
But
it.
no. So anyway, I can never ever go to AMS because of VBS every year in June, and I'm hoping one year maybe they'll move it out of June. That they'll never do it in May because for years in the television business you weren't allowed to take off during a ratings month, and that concept has kind of gone out the window since just times have changed.
I got a letter from
And
Nielsen today, James, asking me to be a Nielsen. I thought, boy, that seems outdated.
It's that what they do, they have meters still. They have a meter that hooks up to your device. And my question is, with the way people consume, video and television, how do they do that? And
Yeah,
there's so
does
many
it go
people are
back and
watching
pick off
Netflix.
your DVR? Because that would be the only,
Well,
connection to
people are
reality I
watching
would have.
Netflix and Hulu and
Right. Right.
YouTube. That's what they watch now. And how do you measure that if you got an old fashioned meter, for broadcast television? It just seems totally outdated. But even with meters, they still ask people to fill out these diaries for the deeper demographic information. And yeah, the whole thing just needs to be reworked. And again, like I've said on here, I'm not negative. Every business model changes. Every business model changes, no matter what business you're in. And if you don't roll with the changes, you won't be successful. I think something marvelous is going to come out of this for people that want to do what we do, and it's going to be better. But you just can't live in the past. And but anyway, that's a show for another day. Um, and for those watching on the television side, welcome. Glad you're with us. It's the Monday Night Weather Party. And like we discussed a little earlier, we're actually recording this on Thursday, the 13th, and we're being put on television on Monday night, the 17th. Things should be calm, but I'm taking a few days away from the office. The plan is to go up to watch the Red Sox and the Yankees Saturday and Sunday night at Fenway. We're going to meet up with Stephen Quinn. Stephen was an anchor here for years, and Stephen left us to go to WHDH, Channel 7 in Boston. So he's working up there. So we're going to meet up with Quinn, and we'll catch the games Saturday night and Sunday night. Then we'll come back, and then my wife and I are going to the Canadian Rockies, Banff, Lake Louise. I have never been to this area before, but the photographs look stunning. And highs will be in the upper 50s and lows will be in the 30s, which sounds very appealing to me.
So let's talk Major League Baseball parks for a second, James, because I got the Marlins Stadium out of the way Sunday, which leaves me with 8, including it.
You're ahead of you're ahead of
including
us.
the current Atlanta. I haven't done the Braves' new stadium, so I may not get to Oakland before it changes because I haven't done Oakland.
We're going to try and do that this summer because it's the
Are
last
you?
chance dance.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I
It's
haven't
it's
done
it's the
Detroit.
armpit of Major League Baseball. Don't rent a car in Oakland. Whatever you do, don't rent a car. Uh, a lot of smashed rental cars out there. But yeah, we've done San Francisco AT&T
I've done
Park,
San
but
Francisco. I
oddly
guess I've
enough,
gotten
one of
everything in
the
California.
one of the big ones. We've not done Dodger Stadium, which makes no sense. We've been to the Angels, in Orange County, but we've
Yep.
not been to Los Angeles.
I've done the Dodgers twice. I've been to Seattle. I have not done Detroit. I got to do it. I got to do Philadelphia. Got to do the Mets City Field.
Yeah, we have not done the Mets. We've been to Philly, been to Detroit, but we'll get there. But I think you're a little ahead of us. James A is on the line. We got to get this thing started here.
Hey.
Three makes a party here.
All right. So question: Are
if
we gonna wait around for Kim and just talk about current events, or do you want to go through this homegrown show that I dreamed up? James,
we'll just
help
go.
me with.
We'll just start. Bill, you take it and we'll roll with whatever you got.
Okay.
All right. Here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You've heard James say it a million times. Respect the polygon. At Weather Call, we call, text, and email you when you're in the polygon. So in a way, we make the polygon better. With solutions for personal use, businesses, schools, pools, playgrounds, and RVs, there's a Weather Call solution that's right for you. Check us out at weathercallservices.com.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
WeatherBrains episode number 961. It's the weekly show for weather dweebs, geeks, nerds, dorks, and weenies, the longest running weather podcast in the universe. On the air since January of 2006, 961. And this is for the 17th of June, 2024, getting awfully close to the solstice here. But we will let you in on a little secret for those that are listening. We are actually recording the show on Thursday, the 13th. And we have some watching live. It is a Thursday night special, and that I will be taking a few days off next week. But, we've just not missed one. And that makes me happy. We've gone 18 years without missing a week. When I take a vacation, we'll cram in 2 the week before. And we're going to be a little thin tonight, but we're hoping, Bill Murray, that we're going to hear from our associates that are gathered together in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the AMS Conference on Broadcast Meteorology and Weather Communication. I think that's how they brand this. James Adelot, how do they brand the communication thing? What's that called?
I don't know. I know it's
really
the first
know.
one. So we're
And it's
super
a joint,
excited about that. Right.
Conference. And that, goodness, if anybody needs to attend this thing, it's me. And again, I don't go to, well, you go for the socializing. That's great. That's marvelous. And that's an important thing. But I go to learn. I've said this many times. As I get older, I know how much I don't know. And so I would love to be there. But hopefully, Bill Murray, we can get so Kim, the commissioner, one of the AMS commissioners, is there, obviously. So hopefully she'll be calling in. What are the odds of her making it, you think, Bill?
Well, I hear alcohol was involved, so it could go either way, James. But
boy.
I did get a photograph earlier, and it looked like they were having a really good time. So that's
oh wow,
our old friend Ryan Stennett with Kim in the middle, and said they were really having a good time. But he did say that she intended to call in, so I'm going to blame James A. But I'll say some of the questions were for tonight's homegrown show. Joe, just between us, will be things that he and I came up with. So I figured we could talk about current events for a while too.
Listen,
else we want to talk about?
We're weather dweebs here. We could talk about this stuff all night long. So hopefully we'll hear from Kim. And so who else is there? Is anybody else there from our group?
Troy's there.
I think
Troy Kimmel. Think Dr. Neil Jacobs isn't he, James? Or did I dream that?
He's if he's not, he's in the proximity of it.
Yeah, that's
Does
true.
That count
got a house
anything?
in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So he's at least in the state.
Got a boat too.
He's probably gone fish. He's probably fishing or something out there.
Apparently there was a raccoon fight in our backyard, so I bet he's got a raccoon story somewhere in his
oh yeah,
in his retinue.
Here comes Neil.
Okay.
Hopefully he'll be there. We'll see. But no, I honestly don't recall ever visiting Myrtle Beach. I've been to Charleston, goodness, countless times.
Hey,
but
look at that.
I want to
Oh, it's an
say,
organized
hey,
show.
all right. Oh, oh boy.
We're off the hook, James.
Oh,
eh?
yeah. Wow. There's our show right there. There's our show.
Put it on autopilot
Dude.
now. I'm just gonna eat some watermelon. Y'all have fun.
I'm about to say, man, turn it up. Neil, take it. Take it. And you are muted.
This is
And,
looking like a professional outfit here.
He just asked
It really
about the
does.
audio, but he's not close to the microphone. But how is the audio for us?
You sound great.
Sounds
Tim.
great. It sounds amazingly good. Really good.
Yeah, it's super good.
And we have a wonderful audience here with us as well tonight. Say hello. Hey.
Woohoo! Oh my
Wow.
goodness, a
Wow.
studio audience.
Wow.
Did y'all knock
Wow.
over a Radio Shack, Troy? What's the deal?
No, Neil Jacob showed up with this bag of stuff that if I'd plugged in, we would have blacked out the city of Myrtle Beach. So
Neil's bag of stuff.
no,
That's our show
technology,
title.
technology.
Is that your entourage, Troy?
No, it's not mine.
My entourage.
Yes, please, it's Allison's entourage. We'd like to introduce you to Allison. Allison,
Hello.
please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Allison Gregory. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for the Unified Forecast System. I started in
Oh.
January, so that's why you may not be familiar with me. And I brought with me my crew of the Early Career Leadership Academy that AMS hosts, and we just graduated today. So thank you. And they're here
This is
to
exciting. Well, y'all,
support us.
well, it's nice to meet you. And y'all take it away. Kim, Neil, Troy,
Yeah.
it's your show. Go. Go.
You may be sorry you said that, but no, it's beautiful in Myrtle Beach, and Dr. Neil showed up, and a little while ago, I understand there was a little fishing done south of here in the last day or two. Kim, Neil, right?
You want to tell your big fish story?
South or southwest, Troy? South would be out in the ocean, wouldn't it?
Well, I know that, but south, I mean, general. I'm from Texas, so you know.
Yeah, the West you can't really discuss.
No.
When you're in South Carolina, that doesn't make sense.
But tell them about this Neil excursion. And there were no copperheads involved, and as I understand it, no near-death experiences.
Well,
What?
not for me, but for
No.
Neil.
Yeah,
Almost got run over.
Neil did try to die.
I got hit by a guy in a minivan.
What?
Down the street. Yeah.
Show title.
Show title. Yeah, that is the show title.
Yeah, I was walking down the street and this guy just took a left-hand turn in front of me, and I was looking at him and I was like, oh, he's gonna see me and stop. He's gonna see me and stop. He's not gonna see me and he's not gonna stop. And he just ran right into me. And then he stopped, and I was like, what it was going like 4 miles an hour, so it wasn't a big deal, but he was just as confused as I was. And I was like, I've been standing in front of your car the whole time you did this turn. Like, what were you looking at?
Does this surprise anyone that's watching
No.
WeatherBrains tonight? Anybody?
No.
Did you,
Okay.
No,
did
this
you
is
throw
a
a
classic
black
Neil
widow on him?
Jacobs story.
It is. You should have thrown a handful of black widows on him.
That's why I let Kim sit next to him. I mean,
Yeah, there's a buffer. No, so he texted me saying, because he was going to meet me, and he texted me saying, "Oh, well, I've been hit by a car."
Oh Lord.
I was like, well, as any normal concerned human would be, I said, well, I'm going to come find you in case I needed to accompany him to a hospital. And he just passed me on by. He went to the place where we're supposed to meet, and I'm looking for like an accident scene or something. And he was like, hey man, I'm at a meeting point. Where are you? You guys
Well-
got hit by a car. What?
But you
Neil,
know
if
what?
you,
Out
if
of
you decide ever to sign up with a personal injury attorney, please make sure they include an advertising run on the show just as part of the condition.
but you know,
I'm gonna get a bunch of calls now.
yeah.
Kim's phone probably has 1,000 contacts in it, and this would be the most likely one to get a text from saying that.
Oh, by far, yes. But I'm happy to say Neil is alive. Congratulations, he's here. We're having a show. We have an audience.
An impressive show too.
Yeah, an impressive show, and I'm very excited tonight to introduce to you. I don't think we've introduced the man at the very end of the table here.
No.
So I know I've gotten to talk to you guys about how I support NCEP, the National Centers for the Weather Service. And I've talked to you all about how one of my favorites is the Space Weather Prediction Center. This is the WCM equivalent for SWPC, the Space Weather Prediction Center. Everybody meet Sean Dahl. He is by far the most popular person at this whole conference this entire week. Sean, would you like to introduce yourself?
What a presentation he made. I mean, I'm serious, folks. I mean, this guy, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. I mean, everybody was loving it. I mean, it was great, Sean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for that glorious introduction. But I'm Sean Dahl. I'm the service coordinator, which is the WCM equivalent, our version of that at the Space Weather Prediction Center. And I came here to engage and let the broadcast media world know more about space weather so they can help publicize the message of what's actually going out there so we can spend less time doing that and focus on operations and the more expertise things behind what space weather is doing. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of people I've met. And yeah, fortunately, my presentations went over quite well.
And I have to say, of all of the centers, one of the reasons I've enjoyed supporting SWPC, the Space Weather Prediction Center, is because of how much I've gotten to learn. And I've gotten to have that joy at this conference in watching everybody also learn about just the sun. I think it's really fascinating how little we're taught as meteorologists about the thing that literally generates all of the weather and the diurnal heating and everything else that we are interested in. But Sean, is there anything that you've carried away from this about just space weather literacy and just in like the sun literacy and things that people may not know that are so interesting and important for us to know about the sun?
Yeah, there's been a lot of engagement about that. And I've actually been quite amazed, even amongst broadcast meteorologists, how little they know about the sun. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean they don't. They thought that some aspects of the sun, like a solar flare, was actually the thing that was going to arrive at Earth, for example, and cause the big storm like we had in early May, when it's really the coronal mass ejection, that expulsion of solar material and magnetic fields that eventually bombards and rules over Earth. So it's been great to help them understand that. And apparently in the short amount, you call these things lightning talks, right? You got to have them done in 5 to 7 minutes most of the time. But fortunately, I had a little bit more time on my first go around and was able to connect with them and make them understand apparently quite well that what the true relationships are and what this actually means for and around our planet, and the things that we'd like to see them tell their viewing audiences out there about what the sun is doing and what it actually means for everybody.
Something that I think is so wonderful, like the perspective is so different for space weather. So you talked with the broadcasters about how there are some broadcasters on the East Coast who might have concerns to communicate to people differently than the West Coast of the US. And that has to do with the subsurface geology. So think of the planet the way the sun would. The planet views us, as this tiny speck. And so these differences in the subsurface geology, the conductance of the material underneath the Earth, actually are important for the impacts that can be experienced in different places. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So we have our geographic latitudes, right? We're all on 40-degree latitude across the United States. Everybody's in a line along that same latitude line. But then you have geomagnetic latitude, and that can be substantially different from one. It's not the same as geographic latitude. So that makes a difference right there. And then the underlying geology, as Kim's talking about, is a huge difference because it's all about the resistivity or conductivity of the rock. So there's been studies done by the USGS, the United States Geologic Survey, that are incorporated that take that element into some of our predictive capability for it to understand where these magnetic storms, these geomagnetic induced currents, can develop on these high voltage transmission lines. And there's a lot more that goes into proximity to salt water, the orientation of the high voltage transmission lines, what direction they're going. There's so many physics that are even beyond my understanding of what go on into how much current's going to develop on these lines during an extreme geomagnetic storm like we experienced in early May.
Sorry, I don't mean to hog up all the questions here. Does anybody else have anything?
Please keep hogging. This is great information, Kim.
Yeah, I could keep going forever because this area is so fascinating. But Ellison has a question.
Well, since we are at the broadcasting conference, I am just curious if you think there's any kind of way forward, where in our day-to-day news, you know, you see people giving us an update of space weather and how it affects us. Like, do you think that's ever something that will be more mainstream than it is now?
My hope is absolutely, we want to see that happen. One of my goals here was to demonstrate that that could be done in even a little 90-second snippet, as long as people become more space weather knowledgeable, because we want to see the broadcast world talk about the sun and space weather in a knowledgeable way, because we want to spend our time focused on the operational impacts to it, meaning letting the critical infrastructure operators know about what's going on so they can take steps to mitigate those problems. So in that attempt to show them that this could be done, I think that really resonated with everybody, and they realized that this could be done. And now they're approaching and saying, hey, we do want to talk to you. We do want to learn more. What can we utilize? What tools do you have to have us learn more about space weather? Because they want to communicate that message. So in that sense, this was a major league success home run for me.
Now I have to ask Sean. You gave an example 90-second clip of what a broadcast could look like if they were to cover
See, I
space
missed it,
weather.
yeah.
The same way we cover terrestrial weather. Like, hey, everybody, this is my normal broadcast, and here's some things to talk about the sun. I know you don't have your slides in front of you, but are you able to recreate any of your like anchorman of space weather? It was really good. It was really good. The broadcasters loved it.
Yep.
Nobody was throwing flaming arrows. You did a good job. Are you able to recreate any of that?
I can give it a try. Just imagine that behind me, like a green screen, and what I was showing as I was talking and doing the bit was a sunspot groups from the large complexes that were the source of the big magnetic storm eventually. And then kind of a zoom up, like you do satellite imagery, you zoom up onto an area. So we zoomed up onto a sunspot group, and I talked quickly about that, and then about the solar flares that were ongoing, and then the big coronal mass ejection that burst the material towards Earth, and what the storm meant for us. So that's kind of what was going on the animations behind me. So I don't know, you really want me to give this a go?
Absolutely.
Oh, geez.
Hey,
Well,
we're getting some positive reinforcement here, Sean.
Yeah.
Oh,
The audience. Yeah.
All right.
live audience is applauding universally for this. I think
All right.
think we have demand, sir.
Well, I'll give it a try then. So, well, now turning to the sun, we can see we've had two giant sunspot regions among a litter of sunspot groups. And as we focus in on the region on the southern hemisphere of the sun, we can see the magnetic complexity, the turmoil of the sunspot group as it's becoming more complex and starting to produce activity such as these solar flares that have been lighting up from the sun and causing immediate impact on the sunlit side of our planet in the outer atmosphere and affecting some things such as certain bands of radio communications. And now, more importantly, several coronal mass ejections, the expulsions of solar material and strong magnetic fields, have swept out from the sun and are heading directly towards Earth, which has led the National Weather Service's Space Weather Prediction Center to issue a very rare G4 geomagnetic severe storm watch expected for the evening of 10 May on into 11 May, which could result in an auroral display of a lifetime just in time for Mother's Day weekend. And now turning back to you, Fred.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
The crowd applauds.
Yep.
Kim, can I ask Sean a question real quick before we move
I was going to
forward?
say, please do. Please interrupt this.
Sean, I sprung a couple of years ago for the NOAA geomagnetic forecasts and the forecast discussion each day, and I get them by email and I get text alerts. And I learned gradually that KP index seems to be the number that you're looking for a lot, right? So talk about that for a moment and the class of geomagnetic storms. So I'm a little smarter. I literally did not believe it the day I saw the 9 pop up, a month or so ago. And I missed such a golden opportunity. We went out after it started and we saw a little bit, but I probably missed some of the better part of the storm because I looked at it and said, you don't know what you're looking at. What is it? Until I saw Span's Twitter feed light up like a Christmas tree that night. I didn't know it was really going on a big thing. But talk about those two terms and what we should look for, or if those are not relevant, what is?
Yeah, sure. So we have many different indexes that we use to measure geomagnetic activity, those magnetic storms. One of them you're talking about is the KP index. There's also something called the AP index, but we won't worry about that one right now. But the KP index is a 0 through 9 index. So the funny thing about it is each of those numbers, except for 9, is divided into threes. So you could have, say, a 2M, the bottom end, a 2Z, the middle, and a 2P, the top end. And this goes on like this until we get to the KP of 9. The KP of 9 is basically KP of 9M and 9Z, and that's it. We don't quantify it above that. So the NOAA Space Weather Scales starts at a KP of 5. That's where we have G1, the minor storm. And this works this way until we get to the G4, because the G4, all of these cover all 3 levels. So a G1 would be a KP of 5 through all levels. A KP of 6 through all levels would be a G2, and so on. But G4 goes all the way to, starts at KP of 8M, goes all the way to KP of 9M. So a G5 is KP of 9Z, the top end of the index. And that's what we reached 3 times in our estimated real-time KP indicator when we were put on the alerts for that storm. So that gives you an idea of how difficult it is to actually get to that top end, that KP of 9Z, that true G5. And in this case, it happened, and it's the first time since 2003. And a lot of things came together with that storm, because not only was it prolific in nature and a strong magnetic field, but it was favorably connected to Earth, meaning imagine 2 magnets trying to put them together when they're the same orientation. They repel. But if you turn it around, then they connect. That's what we had here for over 24 hours, was a strongly connected field, and that allowed the aurora to really light up, and people not only got to see it all over the globe, but they got to see the colors that you don't normally see. And that's another reason why, was everything just really came together with no moon, really a very young moon also at the same time.
Well, I sure was a believer after that event, and I look at it with great interest every day. And I know that probably was a pretty rare occurrence, but maybe it happens again one day, and I'm a little smarter for it, and I'm a whole lot smarter for it after hearing your explanation. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. And we're still got a ways to go, right? We're just kind of reaching solar maximum now. It could be this year, it could be early next year. So over the next couple of years, we could see more activity, at least up on the higher end of our scales.
Sean, do you think, I mean, in your talk, we talked about educating sort of the broadcast meteorologist here, but I'm wondering if the general public has any idea about how important this is when you consider things like power grids. We don't believe have the best power grid in this country, the most secure power grid. And I guess my bottom question is, do you think the public understands that? I'll answer for you, and I'll say no, but you can correct me. But it seems like that's something that's so important to know. And it's something, just like severe weather and hail on Kim's house. Sorry.
It's okay.
But I mean, this is something that could affect us in a big, bad way very quickly.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And you're right. The general public really doesn't understand the implications of an extreme or severe space weather storm. But fortunately, the technological operators, the critical infrastructure maintainers, our federal government, all the national agencies, they know this now. This has taken a couple of decades to get to this point. And not only in the United States, but internationally, everybody started to understand and learn more about space weather for exactly that reason. We don't want to see a collapse. And what can happen when you have an extreme geomagnetic storm, and we know this historically because there's been power outages in the past, among many other potential impacts, is that if you don't prepare and you don't properly mitigate and you don't understand what the problem is, then things are going to unfold that we don't want to see happen. And in this case, the word was getting out there. We were talking to all the operational providers, especially among the power grid and aviation and the satellite control operators, because they're struggling to keep their satellites in the proper orbit with that kind of storm. All these things. And as far as we know so far, there's been no major impact that, devastated some portion of that. It all sounds like it was effectual, and they were able to mitigate, although they were struggling at times to maintain even sections of the power grid. And they basically said that if it's been much stronger, they would have been majorly concerned whether or not they could have continued to mitigate the problem.
Not that you necessarily would know the answer to this, but I assume that our grid system here is not getting any younger. And at the same time, you would think over time, these sort of things would have more of a potential to affect us. And being out here with our audience and the group of broadcast meteorologists week, yeah, cut the power off and shut the internet off and see what happens. And that's something that could happen.
Yeah, with a major power outage, that's exactly what's going to happen. Or even certain satellites, if they're taken offline that people are rely upon for certain types of communication or emergency management or whatever, then it becomes devastating. The thing with these events is the aspect of social unrest.
Yeah.
If you have a power outage, it's not just one that's going to affect like a segment of a city or a few counties. It could be stateswide in coverage, and that is the dramatic concern of the government, why they've invested all this time, energy, executive orders, congressional bills about space weather to make sure we're ready for it. And hey, thank goodness, because we were prepared. This was certainly the most successfully mitigated extreme space weather storm in history, and we're glad to have been part of supporting all that.
Well, something else too, and
Live studio audience is clapping too.
Yeah.
Amazing to have you
James in
all.
Tulsa. The one thing that I learned from Sean, that even if you get on an international flight where you're flying more toward the poles and areas like this is an area you brief airlines and you brief FAA and air traffic control, right?
Absolutely. They have to know, because they have to maintain a set of various communications, not just one, but they have to have backup systems. So regardless of what their primary use is, they have to have them all working. And in this case, just for the geomagnetic storm alone, because flares cause their own problems for that, but the geomagnetic storm does as well, because the auroral oval extends equatorward, and that alone really destroys the ability to do normal HF communication that the airlines rely on. So they were diverting their routes more southerly for two reasons. One, because of the geomagnetic storm and the effect on HF communications. And also there was a minor solar radiation storm going on at the same time. So they kind of had to stay away from the polar regions anyway for that reason also. And that's what we communicate.
That's incredible.
So next time we have I was going to say, let's say we have a Carrington event. What happens today?
That's the concern, and there's a lot of speculation about what that might mean. But let's put it this way. That G5 we experienced, it was historic, no doubt about it. It was comparable to the storms in 2003 that did take down power in a few foreign countries. It wasn't quite as strong in the storm in 1989 that took down the power in 2/3 of the province of Quebec, Canada, however, but it was close. The Carrington event, if this G5 was just kind of a barely G5 and that border was on the top of my head, it was kind of here. A Carrington event would be probably 3 stories above my head. And we don't know if we can manage that situation. And that is why the government in particular is really wanting to make sure that we're as actionably space weather ready as possible to mitigate any of these problems from these storms.
It's incredible.
Well, I've got my tube ham radio gear ready to go.
He's ready to be part of the solution.
Yep.
We got Span on our side. Yeah, we do.
I know that Neil has to have a question about all this. I just have a feeling.
I mean, yeah. I do have a question. So I used to work in the aviation industry, and you often hear pilots being concerned about exposure to radiation just because they spend so many hours over a career at higher altitudes. Like, is that like something they should really be concerned about? Is that built into the forecast? Like, how is this like a new thing that they're diverting flights for potential like additional radiation exposure, or has that been something that they've been doing for a while?
They've been doing that for a while, and it all stems from that knowledge of that, yes, it can be harmful to human tissue if you're at the high enough altitudes and especially close to the polar regions. I mean, we've known this with astronauts for a long time, and that's one of the reasons we started doing what we're doing is for the Apollo missions and the original space race, if you will. And we're going to do that with the astronauts as they go back to the moon once again. We'll be a firm frontline supporter of all that. But aviation, those flights continue to grow. When the war with the Ukraine stops, the United States will also begin flying polar routes once again, because we're not, but other countries currently are. And we do, by the way, support worldwide aviation for 2 weeks at a pop, about every 8 weeks, sending out space weather advisories. And one of those is for radiation, and not just the radiation storm, the energetic particles, but for radiation exposure.
Does the aircraft itself, the tube that is the aircraft, does it offer, I assume it offers protection?
Oh yeah, of course, it's
Okay, yeah.
got it just built by its own construction. It has
Okay.
some resistance, but it's certainly not enough when it comes to passenger safety and crew safety. So they don't want to take anything for granted, because those things will still penetrate into human tissue even through the aircraft at their highest energy levels. So they will lower altitudes and drop further equatorward.
Is there anything that anyone here at the table, and maybe you would know, but I don't expect you to necessarily have to know. Is there anything with air crews and people like this? Do we find anything in studies that find out they're more susceptible maybe to cancer or to anything that we can see that effect anywhere medically?
Yeah, there is one study out there that I'm aware of that shows that there's some concern for pregnant women's fetuses.
Okay.
So that is something to be certainly concerned about when there's these storms going on. The difficult thing right now is to try to understand between crew safety and passenger safety and risk, because you don't want to panic people by trying to shut down the airline industry, right? But at the same time, when it becomes warranted, it's got to go out, and then the airlines are going to have to decide what to do, because right now that's not necessarily fully regulated. So they will make decisions on their own about what to do. So the airlines have that kind of independent operation, if you will. But there is FAA, Federal Aviation Administrative guidance about certain aspects of that. And I think that's going to continue to grow so that there's a commonality to what all the airlines should be doing.
Wow.
So this kind of leads into something I've been thinking about while you're talking. Is you said the word you said the word panic, and I think that's in the broadcast community the excitement of adding the space weather component, but then space is scary, and so I'm just wondering how we can easily talk. This is more of a social science perspective, right? How can we easily talk about these issues without, freaking everyone out? Like, oh my gosh, the fetuses, and like, what are we going to do? And it's flaring all the time. I didn't know this, like giving us more things to worry about,
Right. There's some scary words in our lingo, right? Like radiation, X-rays, energetic particles, and, it all sounds frightening as all heck, right? And it's true.
Like being with Neil. No, sorry. Sorry, Neil. I love you, buddy.
Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of work, and it's taken a lot of time because this is a very sciencey thing. And I know when I first got to Space Weather Prediction Center 9 years ago, one of the things I jumped onto within a year was social media and trying to message. And the first things we were doing was putting out all the stuff that are on like our NOAA space weather scales. It was all sciencey. It was all the potential effects, and nobody was tuned into them as of yet. But over the years, fortunately, I've been doing a lot of work, and others at SWPC to make, when I say SWPC, I mean Space Weather Prediction Center for short, are doing a lot of work to make that message more user understandable among all sectors and the general public. Kim's been a part of that process to help us get the lingo down as well. And I think we're there. We made great progress, and it couldn't have been at a better time because that messaging was followed throughout the world when this event unfolded.
Right. I mean, you can't buy better publicity than we saw. And what was amazing on social media and everything else, to see the pictures that people were contributing, just people out in our case, in Central Texas, that far south, where in the Bahamas, there were some pictures that we saw that far south, southern parishes of Louisiana, places like that. I think people were pretty amazed. I saw things in social media, people saying this is the most amazing thing that I've ever witnessed.
Oh, it's astounding. It's a natural phenomenon that's beautiful to behold. And I think that's a great takeaway from here as well, is that, we're doing everything we can with operators and maintainers of our systems that we rely upon, that they keep things working. So our hope is that people can just enjoy the beautiful aurora and northern light shows that go on as a result, and not worry about what could happen, because they're going to work very hard to maintain systems. In this case, they did, and they succeeded.
And I just want to say, I know I'm the social scientist that's helping to support SWPC and all of this, but I think we need to recognize how incredible the service is that they're providing, given how few observations they have. This is the most incredible thing to me. there is one satellite that is 93 million miles from Earth, close to the sun, right? And this one is actually NASA run. It's like a research satellite.
It's a research satellite. It's 1 million miles from Earth, so 92 million miles from the sun.
Okay, that one's the NASA research satellite. And isn't there one then that's also close to the sun?
Yeah, there's the Parker probe that went around the sun, very close to the sun. We don't get observations from that we can use in the Space Weather Prediction Center, unfortunately, but there's science going into that. So our hope is that a lot of research is going to go to operations as a result of all that effort and work to get that probe to do what it did, where we can learn more about these events and maybe even have more advanced warning time for these events as they unfold.
It's remarkable how much we can learn, even though the observations are so sparse. So think about how much we complain in terrestrial weather about losing any of our, any of our observations, and we complain about how sparse the weather balloons are in either space or time. And I mean, compared to what you guys are dealing with in space weather, to put it in context, something that Sean covered in his talk was you can see like a coronal mass ejection off of the sun, and they in their ops center in Swipsy, they're watching just these constant like motion pictures of here's the sun at different wavelengths, right? So you can see different kinds of phenomena off of it, because every one of the things he's covered is just some potential hazard happening at a different wavelength of electromagnetic energy. And so you guys have this ability to see those various spectra, and they're able to discern some things, but very basic things like what direction is that even going are a mystery because of the paucity of observations. So there have been several times just in the past couple of months, you guys have seen the sun do like one of these big like coronal mass ejection like halos. So you kind of think, well, that could be directed toward Earth or the exact opposite of Earth. Yeah. Talk a little bit about how hard it is, like how much uncertainty there is underlying your predictions because of the just sheer paucity of observations and data.
Right. Thanks for that opportunity, because it's so true. We have so few observations. You know, I was one of my jobs in the Weather Service before I came here was launching upper air balloons. So I'm well aware the time that takes place, that there's many of these that get launched around the globe, and we get a pretty decent sampling, even though it's not enough, of the upper atmosphere and what's going on. So we can predict terrestrial weather accurate enough. In space, we only have a few satellites, and you're talking about 93 million miles of interstellar space here. To try to cover that and understand that without more satellite fleets out there observing the sun from different angles and different perspectives and taking different measurements. So yeah, we've got our one. We've got our one coronagraph in space. It's old. It's decades old. That's sitting 1 million miles from Earth. We have another NASA research satellite that's been our main solar wind observation platform for many decades. We had a replacement from NOAA go up, the Discover spacecraft, but that's proved to have been problematic in some of its measurements. So we actually rely on the ACE platform quite a bit, almost as much as we do Discover from time to time. So it's great to get another spacecraft up there, the compact coronagraph, which is going to be on one of the GOES instruments. So we'll have a NOAA operated for the first time coronagraph in space, which is going to be huge because we can get instantaneous corona measurements and see these CMEs much more timely. Because I was saying at the conference, when you're using a NASA research satellite as your primary instrument to detect CMEs, they could decide they need to track an asteroid or something, some spacecraft that's exploring Jupiter, and they will divert the tracking stations to that. So you have no data for hours. And in the Carrington event, we think that could get here in 15 to 16 hours or so. Yeah. We could have a gap where we're just starting to analyze and understand the CME, and then it arrives here at Earth. I mean, that's kind of frightening. We don't want to see that happen. So we can't wait for this compact coronagraph to get out there as another aspect and another NOAA-controlled system finally, where we have say on whether they can do maintenance on it even. We can say, no, you can't. It's a critical weather day in space.
Wow.
It's incredible. Sean, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of what has made this conference so remarkable. I know broadcasters have been trying to communicate with their audiences about everything that's been going on, and it's just there's just so much that we don't even understand at a fundamental science level about the sun, and then we don't observe about it. So it's very hard to develop really good stories to talk about it and help people understand what it means for them, what they can even be doing or what they should be doing. So I view what you guys are doing as it's just an extraordinary frontier of risk communication. And I don't envy the challenge you have in any way, because the consequences of what could go on are the most significant of any aspect of the Weather Service. So just thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for making it so digestible too. And we've really enjoyed learning about space from you.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been great being with you and taking part in this conference in particular. It's been an eye-opener for me, an eye-opener for everybody attending. And that's the goal, to learn from each other and move on and help inform the public about what's really happening out there. And so that what I want them to be is just like they're terrestrial weather ready. They know what a tornado is. You may have to keep reminding them the difference between a watch and a warning, and that's great, but you don't have to explain what a tornado is anymore. I want to get there with space. I don't want to have to explain what a CME is or what a solar flare is or what a radiation storm is. I'd love the nation to be space weather ready all the way around. And then what we're doing is communicating what to expect and the potential impacts, and spend that time on that.
Amazing stuff. And the video that Sean brought with him to the conference and showed us in conference, there were a lot of oohs and ahs in that audience, because it was really very impressive. And, you know, what did we do a few weeks ago? We put on our Eclipse glasses, and that's about all we knew about what was going on to be able to watch that. But to see your videos that you showed, and since your talk to the broadcast meteorologist, a lot of people are touching base with you now, aren't they?
They sure are. I've made a lot of contacts
Good.
here. Many more are going to keep reaching out. Not just national network folks, but all the local. I don't care who it is. If it gets to their viewing audience in any way at all when it comes to space weather, it's a success, another success story to get everybody smarter about this. And to go back to your point, I didn't mention it. Yeah, forecasting space weather is hard. It's just, 93 million miles and try to figure out whether something's going to hit our little blue marble out there in this massive solar system of ours is really difficult. And yeah, we don't know sometimes what direction a CME is going, because it's a one perspective, and we don't have a Doppler radar in space sitting there monitoring and helping us out. So believe it or not, it is difficult. And twice, as you alluded to, in the last month or month and a half, we've seen a full halo CME, meaning it's going out in all directions, meaning it's going either directly away from Earth or directly towards Earth. And we first thought each time that it was coming towards Earth because we had activity happening on our side. I mean, it's solar maximum, right? So if we got activity on our side, there's activity on the far side of the sun too. So it takes a little time sometimes to go back and say, no, I'm not seeing this other signature I should be seeing. And that's where this expertise also comes in from all of our forecasters and staff to help make that better on which way even a CME is going and what to do with the forecast.
And I'm gonna leave it to Sean just to have a pick of the week in just a few minutes, because I'm hoping that that your website will be that, because I encourage people to go check it out. People are used to seeing what? They're used to seeing the Weather Prediction Center website, the National Hurricane Center, our Storm Prediction Center, another center that I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with. So I'll let you save that for pick of the week, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I hope, Sean, would you like to stay as a panelist, and you can help us to, ask questions and just be part of what goes on from this point forward? Well, it's been wonderful to have you as a guest, and now I'm excited to welcome you as a panelist, and we're going to transition. I think Neil and I have been conspiring a little bit. Allison has brought with her tonight the audience that we have here. You might have heard applauding every so often. They're all part of the AMS Early Career Leadership Academy. And we would love, Allison, if you could tell us a little bit about ECLA and, just sort of what it is, and introduce us to the great people who are here this evening.
Sure. I mean, I would love to volunteer the chair of the ECLA if she feels comfortable coming up, because I just recently graduated this academy today. But we do have someone with us who is the incoming chair. She is now the chair of the Early Career Leadership Academy at AMS. Her name is Alex Morrison, and she's right here. And
Yeah, you just shared a chair. I hear you guys have been really, you guys have been a very huggy crew.
And-
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome
So
to our circle.
I think she should describe the program, and then I can talk about kind of what my week was like, I think.
Sure. So yeah, the Early Career Leadership Academy is something we currently do every year, usually in June. It kind of starts off, we do. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was
Is
just
anyone saying
I was just disruptive. I was going to point out to Neil your earrings, our little cold front and warm front. I don't know if everyone can see these things.
It's outstanding.
But
Outstanding.
oh my gosh. Okay, well that'll be a whole other
I didn't
conversation.
know when I was bringing her up that she had those, so that's a bonus.
That is such a bonus. They're amazing. Sorry, keep going about science and things.
Thank you. All right. So we usually select somewhere around 20 early career professionals, and we split them into peer mentoring groups, and they have then 4 formal webinars that we do an assortment of things. We have them do Clifton Strengths testing, do some DEI work, and then it kind of all culminates and comes together with the in-person meeting, which is over 3 days where they get to interact with each other, finally meet in person, and listen to lots of great speakers, have lots of great discussions, and
Like
different work.
Kim was one of our speakers
Yes.
today.
I wouldn't necessarily say I was one of the great speakers. I mean, I got to talk about AMS, so that is wonderful. But it was also about the bureaucracy of AMS, which it's for some people very exciting.
Yeah.
I see some laughter. Nate Johnson.
Nate.
Johnson.
Oh, wow.
Nate
Wow.
Johnson has found
Wow.
us. And he's
The
already laughing
legend.
at me.
The legend.
The legend. The legend. Span has already called you out as the legend, sir. Would you like to come and at least make
Join the table.
if
He
you're,
has to.
if you're gonna make these faces at me, you should make them on air. Don't you can't do that behind the shield of Neil's laptop. No, sir.
Bring the beard.
Bring the beard.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for bringing
There's the beard.
I see him in the mirror.
Yes. Yes. This conference, amazing. Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I do have to say, no, your talk was great today. You gave some great info. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people in the early career don't fully understand how AMS is set up. So it was a great talk for everyone, I think.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I gave a talk that was sort of, hey, does anybody feel like they really understand what happens? Or is it like a curtain? There's like a man behind the curtain that just magically does things. And so at least I got to describe a little bit of what goes on behind the curtain. And I tried to make it exciting. I tried. But, at least he got to eat food while I spoke, and all of that was good.
Yeah, that always helps, having a presentation where you have food in front of
Yes.
you. It makes it go by a lot
Yes.
faster.
Bunch. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But can you tell us a little bit, as you're so intimately involved with ECLA, tell us a little bit more about why it's so important to pour into early career professionals. And I think it'd be wonderful to meet the folks that you've brought with this evening so that everyone can see some of the just extraordinary talent that's coming up. And I mean,
Amazing.
just even just eliciting questions from this crowd. I was so amazingly impressed with all of you. So I think it'd be wonderful to get to meet everybody that you have here this evening.
Oh, for sure. Because yeah, our cohort this year was definitely an incredible one. I feel like you say that every year. It's always a lot of great people. And yeah, kind of targeting this early career is super critical because, you do have a lot of opportunities as a student because you have support from the university you go to. And once you get more into your mid and late career, you have all that experience, and you usually are in leadership positions. But then there's that window where you're just new, starting out, you're probably working under someone or under a lot of supervision. And so, and your work might have some leadership training opportunities, but there might not always be that area or that training. And so ECLA then kind of fills that need to give these early career professionals that support, that training, and then opportunity to then use what they've learned and then apply it. Because another piece of ECLA that I haven't really talked about is it's a very self-sustaining thing. We have the cohort go through, and then the cohort becomes the planning committee and the chairs within it. And it just is that cycle. So you have that opportunity to then use what you've learned. And as of last year, we now have over 100 alumni from ECLA, and a lot of them have gone on to do some really incredible things, both within AMS and outside of AMS in their own jobs.
So, hey, would you like to run everybody who is here in our audience past us? We could either bring a mic around and like just pan the camera, or would you guys like to come up in like a da 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 rotation? Like we could do this either way.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, come up. I'm nervous about the microphone.
No reason to be nervous about the microphone, right, Kim?
Absolutely not.
I am not a legend, so.
Yeah,
Academy.
Yeah, Early Career Legends Academy. Oh, I love, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
This took a very Marvel turn.
By the way, you can't leave the camera. Nate, get up here.
That's what I'm saying.
Nate.
Okay, this is Jake.
All right, I'll make this part quick so Nate can come back eventually. I'm Jake Karstens. Thanks for having me on here. I'm postdoc at Penn State, so doing research the last couple of years, and actually starting as a professor this fall at the University of North Dakota.
Wow.
The timing of this ECLA experience was so perfect for me as someone who's going to be, very much in a role where I am directly responsible for student success. I had a very beneficial experience as an undergraduate and graduate student, and want to kind of get into the craziness of academia to kind of create that safe space for people, because pursuing a degree in this field and going for these kind of positions that we're all in is a rigorous and sometimes kind of chaotic process. We all need that consistency and support throughout it. So this was instrumental. Big Alex Morrison fan over here. This was such a great way to learn a lot about myself along the way and become more vulnerable and I guess expand my horizons. As a postdoc, I've kind of been in a bubble of studying tropical cyclones. So if you're thinking about grad school and you want to come to Grand Forks, North Dakota to study hurricanes, come chat.
Who would not think
No.
Grand Forks, North Dakota for hurricanes? That is just a
It's
natural.
DFW, so can we.
What a great marketing effort. This is a great marketing. Yeah.
I'll have to
Congratulations.
welcome you to my home state. And by the way, ironically, the motto right now for tourism is be legendary.
Oh,
Oh.
That is my exit.
Well, our next contestant, we are welcome to, or sorry, please welcome
Allison Michaelis.
Hello, Allison. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is such an awesome opportunity, and thank you guys for letting us crush the party and
Yeah.
in the background.
Yeah. Well, oh gosh. Well, you have been among the best of like applauders and just just very
We
excited.
do what we can.
Yeah. Very, very, very great energy. So tell us a little bit. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm an assistant professor at Northern Illinois University and a fellow Wolfpack alum. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I wanted to join ECLA and get involved with this group just to echo a lot of what Jake said. And in this process of mentoring students and educating students and just being a leader in that aspect. But a lot of what we do is not taught along the way. And so just getting some guidance on how to do all of those things and how best to prepare our students for careers outside of academia. I wanted to get some perspective of what the private sector is looking for, what government sector is looking for, having not been there myself.
Allison, one thing I've said on this show so many times is we've got to do a better job, I believe, for the people that want to be outside of academia,
Absolutely.
preparing for the real world. The
Mhm.
real world is not fair. It has never been fair or anything else. And I think this is exactly what you're saying, that this is what you try to do. And I admire that.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that that is an
Yeah.
aspiration across the board.
Yeah.
All right. Hi again.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Next contestant is.
Hi, my name is Katie Wunsch.
and I am a senior meteorologist at Pattern Energy.
Wow.
I'm one of there were 2 of us in private sector in this year's ECLA class. So bringing some representation there.
Now, you do know what your last name means in German, yes?
Yes. It
Okay,
means wish.
Yes,
Yeah.
means wish.
Yeah.
Random fact about Kim. Kim studied German, like almost was a major, almost fluent for, yeah, like a long time ago. But that is very exciting.
It's
very
one of,
excited
like,
to meet
4
you.
German words that I know.
Wow. What a good one. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about what exactly is it that you do then in the private sector?
Yeah, so my company Pattern Energy develops, owns, and operates utility scale renewable projects across North America. So we are the largest renewable energy provider in Ontario, and then also have several sites across the US. We're currently building the largest wind farm. I'm gonna get this wrong, but the largest wind farm in the Western Hemisphere.
Wow.
That's gonna go online in 2026, and that's gonna be in New Mexico.
So I would imagine like doing something like that is your focus more short-term forecasting, long-term forecasting, like
All of the above.
Yeah.
So, so I'm on the operations side to actually answer your question. I work on the wind farm operations side, so helping forecast our power production and both short-term and long-term. So we do everything from we call it BAL day in the trading world. So the current day forecast to day ahead, the rest of the week, all the way out to seasonal forecast. So trying to forecast for wind power production out 3 to 6 months.
do you exist like on the trading side or on the grid management side? Is it firewall?
The grid management side is, yes.
Okay.
So I support both of those efforts, but I'm not actually in those teams.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. We don't often see a lot of private sector folks
Yeah.
coming through this. It's awesome.
Yep. If you were to tell us something that is one of the biggest challenges in your industry, I feel like there's been just so much contestation around this kind of energy production and bringing it into the grid.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like such a natural, but it also, I mean, it can be a little out of sync with the rest of energy production. What does that look like from your point of view?
One thing that's really challenging is the adjustment from kind of the traditional grid setup, which is what we have now, especially from a transmission perspective, where we've had the ability to have like constant power being injected on the grid, like a coal plant or a natural gas plant can just have the same amount of power production all hours of the day. With renewables, that's not how they work, obviously, because we have more variability, and the grid isn't fully built out to account for that. So we're trying to adjust and use like batteries to help stabilize that, but that's a big challenge across the industry right now.
It is so, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just amazing. Being here this week and hearing these stories and the new people that are coming up through the field, I feel very good about what I've seen in the last 2 or 3 days at this conference. So congratulations to all of you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And thank
Yeah.
you for this area of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So important and
Yeah.
very nice to meet you, Ms.
Thank you so much.
Wunsch.
Thank you so much.
All right, who's our next contestant slash victim?
We're moving them closer.
So scared.
Yeah, Sean, and
Yeah,
we did say you're part of the panel now. You've been inducted. So if you have any questions of anybody, you please just jump in.
My name is Matt Green. I work with CERES, the Cooperative Institute for Research in Environmental Sciences, and we work with the Weather Prediction Center and help the development and training branch produce products for really the end goal is to help forecasters and produce a better forecast to help the public and their forecasting communications.
So what in the world is your background to get into that area of work?
I never kind of thought that I'd be here, like even in ECLA. Everyone has the story of like, well, if you lived in the Midwest or in the Southern Plains, I saw a tornado when I was, 5 years old and I wanted to be a meteorologist. I never had that. So it was kind of like, my progression into meteorology took a little while to mature. And I did my master's research at Oklahoma University and it was in climate science, and I had the opportunity to apply to this position, and it was in precipitation. So again, it was just very different. But again, the skills, that we've learned here today just continue to prove our ability to learn and ability to change and adapt to new techniques. And to be honest, being able to talk up here today is something we also learned at the ECLA too. And so just being able to have that elevator speech ready to go and having that. And I'm glad I put on a polo, because we were out at the pool and beach earlier this afternoon after we had concluded, and
We graduated.
yeah, we graduated. We graduated, so we
Do that,
but I'm glad I put on a polo for this afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah.
You're gonna talk to
Yep.
whoever.
Yeah.
Exactly,
It's out there.
exactly. Yes. Just thank Allison for that too.
Yeah.
Pulling that into your
Yeah.
world. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so what is one thing that surprised you, I think, going from graduate school into this kind of a role? Yeah, just tell us a little bit about that transition.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good question. I think graduate school, it sounds cliche, but again, it's cliche for a reason. Graduate school teaches us to learn and to how to adapt to new situations. And, again, kind of going back to what I did for graduate school, which is climate science. A lot of people think that we have to, or the conception is that we are going to do what we think we are doing currently in graduate school into a professional career. And
Yeah.
not often is that the case.
No.
And so again, that just having the ability to adapt and learn and continue to learn to adapt to new roles and to be able to, in our case, in my case now, be able to lead a team who is doing great work in machine learning and web development to, again, produce better products for the forecasters at the Weather Prediction Center, and being able to do that in a very, professional manner, and definitely the end product and the end result is what we're looking for. So yeah.
Well, that is wonderful. And as part of Team NSUP with Weather Service, I'm so excited to meet you. Hey.
Well, again, you had a great presentation earlier, and it definitely showed us different AMS parts and how all of them work together, and how we as ECLA and how that AMS fits into that. So again, great presentation earlier, and definitely thank you to the whole planning committee for ECLA and to Alex for everything that they've done to get us to this point. So yeah.
And I don't mean to, I know you guys are sitting there out in virtual land. If you have any questions too of the folks, I just thought it would be so great for our audience to see the cohort that's coming through, because part of it is you all represent what's coming in our field. Both the kinds of roles you're able to occupy, but also the perspectives that you're bringing into the field. And this was something that I was trying to impress upon you all today, just how important your voice is at this point. And I know this is something, Span, you've talked about a lot on our show. We need to hear so much more from our early career professionals, because what the field looks like today and what it's looked like in the past, it's not going to be what the field looks like tomorrow. Yeah.
And I love this generation, Kim. I think they're brilliant, hardworking, and I think they will open the door to knowledge that we could not unlock during my generation. So I'm just delighted to see these folks, and keep them coming. Come on, let's go.
All right.
We have two more
Yep.
that are here with us.
Yep.
But I do want to say we had a much larger team that is here today, and that many of them have already left to go home to their respective jobs and locations. But they also we had a very diverse set of groups of a group and plenty more. So we have two more. But thank you so much. This is a great opportunity.
Thank you. All right, we've got, like you said, two more. We're excited to introduce to you. All right, our next
Hello.
contestant.
Hi, so nice meeting you. I'm so happy, excited to be sitting next to legend and future legend. Well, for starters, my name is Fernanda Ramos. I'm actually a broadcast meteorologist, and I work for a Spanish TV network down in Houston, Texas.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. So I do broadcast. I do weather stories in Spanish, not only for Houston, but for different cities across here, the United States.
Wow.
So it's really interesting how I get to be in Houston and actually watch weather for California, Florida. I mean, you name it, yeah, everywhere. So it's very funny because sometimes people reach out and say, I think you are on vacation in Houston. Because I said yesterday forecasting 80s for Miami, and no, it's just that I was in Houston.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because if you were in vacation in one of those places, it would certainly be Houston.
Right. Of course.
That's very natural. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that arrangement. So how does it get, how did you get
Well,
to be in that
basically,
spot?
yeah, my station is known to have the weather hub for different cities. So how it works is that sometimes I get to do forecasts for 5, 6 cities a day, and I get to be in their different shows. So sometimes I have to pre-record, and I have, of course, my live shots, but I have to look like the synoptic skills of everything and then go deep down into the local aspects for each city. So it's very fun to know what's actually happening across entire country, weather-wise.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm sorry, I keep monopolizing all the
No,
questions.
you're not.
You guys need to stop me because I'm in like an interviewer smart part of my profession. So yeah, you guys
This
just
is
all,
good.
yeah.
This is good. You keep going.
Okay. Yo, Sean has been deputized. So Sean?
Yeah, so Spanish speaking community,
Yes.
space weather.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
That is something we're not even trying right now. We're trying to get the normal American speaking, English speaking.
They don't speak English really at Swipsy.
Yeah, I did hear today, I forget his name, but that's why I have it on my phone. We connected today. He does, he did a Spanish language broadcast about the big storm in early May. Are you another person that we could contact if, you know, to help learn how to translate messages? I don't mean
Please
verbally,
do.
but how to messages.
Please do.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, this is a fun fact. Before joining the broadcast sector, I was part of the federal government, and I was a forecaster for the National Weather Service for 3 years in a row at the San Juan office. So one of my tasks, one of the tasks that I had there was to translate all of the products that we issue in English into Spanish.
Yeah.
So I kind of have like that background. If you need help, I'm all in for that.
Sean, there you go. Sean. Yes.
Thank you.
Your Instagram bio says you're a JPL solar system investor.
Oh my God, I have fans and I didn't know that. I'm a fan on Twitter or X now, what we call it.
Nate, do you want to come bring that up to the microphone, Nate? No.
Okay.
All right. Well, Nate Johnson was a troublemaker off to the side, and he's
Sorry, Nate.
perennial troublemaker
we
off to
know
the
Nate
side.
well. We know him well.
We know Nate well.
All right. Well, would you like to tell us a little bit about this JPL piece that he was talking about?
Actually, recently, this year, I was named as a NASA Solar System Ambassador. I already shared with my cohort that I'm a very space enthusiast or a fan. So I thought, why not join this program, learn more about space, and then just share it to the rest of the world. So I'm kind of working towards that. And actually, we did a live show during the solar eclipse, last solar eclipse in NASA, actually for both, for the annular solar eclipse and for the what was partial in Houston, total in Dallas. But we were at NASA doing that live streaming for the eclipse.
Okay, so you weren't actually kidding when you talked to Sean about, hey, yeah, I'd love to help support you because that's actually your interest area.
That's why I say, please do. Yeah, reach out. I'm all in.
Wow.
I'm in. My pets, yes, I have a dog and I have a cat, and I decided to name my dog Apollo because of the Apollo mission.
Oh, well, yes, as we all do.
And I have a cat. I adopted it in Houston. So I need to find a space name, but something that it resembles Houston. So I went with Astro because we have to root for the Astros as well. So there you go. Apollo and Astro. Team double A.
And she's sitting next to Sean.
I could not have planned.
What's funny about it is you're using space days. we're science fiction fans, along with astronomy fans.
Yeah.
So our cat's name is Tribbles. Anybody
Yeah.
Star Trek?
Yeah.
Where's the Tribble? And that's
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's really nice how we can incorporate like everything we love for science, or the love that we have for science, into our families and everything that we love. That was kind of
Great.
That is so wonderful. Oh my gosh. Well, don't be surprised if we do contact you for some help with that. because-
Yeah.
because
I'll
how
give you my
fortuitous.
business card.
Right?
We can go.
do, 'cause
We
I don't
can go
have
from
one.
there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
No,
so much.
thank
What a
you.
delight to meet. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
I appreciate it. No, I'm very happy to be here. And we have one last person. who
We
has to
do.
present, so.
Oh yeah, you're not getting out of this. I just saw his eyes go, oh no. Oh yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yay.
Hey.
Oh, so good. All right. All right. Our last guest from the ECLA cohort. Welcome to the show.
Okay.
No pressure
I'm
though.
not sure about the best, but you know, I'm trying.
Yeah.
So my name is Anderson de Figueiredo, and I'm a postdoc working with the University of Wyoming in Laramie. And we are working in this NSF grant, WYACT, which stands for Wyoming Anticipating the Climate Water Transitions. And it's pretty much about a project working with this transdisciplinary perspective and like a knowledge co-production perspective, like working with communities and trying to understand how they will handle some challenges around water availability in the future in the three headwaters. So like Missouri, Colorado, and yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, co-production, you just use a word that is very close to my heart. And of course, water in the West
Yeah.
is just fundamentally a very difficult
It is.
proposition. You can say, yeah, Troy's like, yeah, being in Texas, boy, do
Yeah.
I know.
Wyoming's a beautiful place, but I read that all the time that they're talking about, how are we going to stretch the resources out to make it work? So that's amazing.
Yeah. It's amazing, but it is challenging as
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah.
Because
No, it
there's
is.
like diverse interests around water, like can be like, about like recreation or agriculture of like indigenous peoples as well. So it is challenging, but it's beautiful, right? To work with people and try to help as a scientist, right?
Tell us a little bit more about the goal of your work. What are you hoping to accomplish?
Oh, that's a good question.
I know. I'm that person everyone invites onto the committee, and then they're like, "Oh God, why did I bring her on?" She's very like amazing and terrible.
Okay, so I think right now we're trying to understand what like local communities want to learn from climate scientists, from folks from ecology, folks from hydrology, and how like climate data or hydrology data can support local decisions or local concerns. Maybe I think this is kind of the goal.
So you're helping help people navigate it's a contested space. There's a lot of interests around water, and you're just hoping that they can have the information they need to make good choices collectively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're learning in the process, right? So how to communicate like climate change to, I don't know, to farmers or to immigrants or, to different groups, it's also challenging. But folks want to learn more about it, which is exciting, right?
Right. And tell us just a little bit about you're working in Wyoming, I presume.
Yeah.
So given the political landscape of Wyoming, but the topic you're talking about,
Yeah.
how do those two things relate?
Oh.
I'm so sorry.
That's Kim. That's Kim. Okay.
Going right down the tubes here, right down the tubes.
Heavy. I ask it in the nicest way, but I do like the really, just get to the heart of the matter question. So you can defer if you'd rather not.
I mean, but it's the same thing with Texas to some degree.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But we cannot, I tell students every semester that the biggest issue in Texas in the future will be water. And I would arguably say
Yeah.
that anywhere west of the plains, and for that
No.
matter, across this country, frankly. But west of the plains, it is going to be the biggest issue. You can argue politically about anything else you want to do, but it comes down the road, particularly in the western half of this country, water is the biggest issue over the next 100 years.
Yeah, and I think it's our strategy, like with you know, most of the groups is like focus more on water than anything else. Because you know, if you talk with a farmer, even he doesn't believe in climate change, for example, he knows, like, you know, that water is the lifeblood of the community and everyone needs it, and he needs it for, you know, for his life. So water is one of the strategies. And yeah.
Yeah, no, that is so incredible. Before you go, can you tell us, are you from Wyoming? And if not, what do you find the most remarkable about being in Wyoming?
I'm from Brazil originally. Yeah.
Not to call it out, but I kind of had a feeling.
Yeah.
Yes, so very different from Brazil, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's beautiful. It can be cold, it can be windy, but it's beautiful.
Very windy.
Very windy.
Let's be honest.
It's Western North Dakota. Yeah, very windy.
I have naturally messed up hair because.
Thank you, Sean.
Yes, Sean has a very nice windswept
does,
cloth
he does.
going on. Yes.
I think, I mean, I love the landscape of Wyoming, for example, but also there are people, because as an immigrant, I was concerned that, you know, I wouldn't be accepted or something like that, but it's like the opposite. So people are really like welcoming and friendly. So it's like a good surprise, I guess.
That's
wonderful.
Good for you.
That is.
Oh, so good.
Captain Kim, I think that's one of the highlights of the show right there, because we're so divided as Americans, and
Amen.
and there is one thing, when you get down to the nitty gritty, to the people, the day-to-day people, we are a welcoming and accepting culture, and I'm very excited to hear you say that. And Captain Kim, you've done such a fabulous job tonight, putting this together and making this happen. It's just been spectacular. I see the reflection of Ryan Stinnett somewhere there in the background. If he's still around, let us say hello to him before he gets away.
Oh, yes. We'll bring him in, and Nate can't hide forever either.
No.
So.
Thank you, Anderson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, before I just want to say thank you to my cohort, because one of the main takeaways of this week was being open, and I did just mention this to them today, and I told them, you know, there could be some talking, you know, to on TV in the public eye, and they all just did a great job diving right in.
Oh my
They
gosh,
sure
yes.
did.
You
very,
were
very
all
grateful.
wonderful. Thank you so much.
And Bill, you would not realize how relaxed Nate Johnson is over here.
Well, you know, I learned a
It's
long time
Nate.
ago that
Yeah.
broadcasters only dress from the waist up when they're on the air, and I understand that we have a situation like that tonight with Nate. So Nate has apparently adapted really well to the Myrtle Beach culture, it looks like, Kim.
Oh, yes, he certainly has. He is dressed in full palm tree regalia. Yes,
I
indeed.
thought he had on a tank top and flip flops.
Hey, you're not very far off, James.
No, you're that far off.
We're seeing his toes, but he's charging people for that. So.
Wow.
Well, Ryan, it's nice to see you. Of course, you're the chief
That's
meteorologist.
his OnlyFans page.
Ryan, it's nice to see you. You're the chief at WGXA in Macon, which I found out had more cherry trees than Washington D.C. or even Tokyo. I think,
the
or
Cherry
some
Blossom
crazy
Festival
statistic.
every March, and it's a big 2-week event there. It's bigger than the state fair in Georgia, so it's an incredible event. Everything goes pink. I wore pink ties, pink shirts for 2 weeks straight during Cherry Blossom Festival, and they the beer pink in Macon for the Cherry Blossom
I'll drink
Festival.
to that.
So yeah, I think this panel can agree to that. But
Yeah,
like,
well.
you ever
Hey,
had?
you had a pink old fashioned earlier,
We're
as a
not
matter of fact.
Like we're not talking about that right now.
Oops.
I am behaving right now, but yeah, the pink old fashioned I do not recommend because that was not made proper. Thanks, Kim. So
Hey man, you got a free drink, okay?
yeah, it was free, and sometimes you stomach the worst things in your life for free. So
Well, Ryan, it's really good to see you. Of course, you spent a long time with us over at Alabama WX, and we loved every minute of it, and are glad to see your career reaching excellent new heights.
absolutely, and I think one of my first episodes was with Troy Kimmel on Weather Brains, and I think my last episode was when we had.
You're gonna say the last one.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it was with Josh Werman back in the day. So
Oh.
it's been a while
nice.
since I've been on Weather Brains, but sometimes you just got to take a break from things.
Well, we follow your career with great
Yeah,
interest and are really proud of you.
Like there are just other things that go on in life, and like, I love Weather Brains. I watch it every week, and Kim this week was like, "We're doing it live from here." I'm like, "Oh, Kim." So.
That's right. No, that was an excited. Oh, Kim, yeah, this is gonna be great.
You're doing Weather Brains tonight, Kim. You need to slow it down a little bit.
All I told him was, Kim, he should not be over there corrupting you. So I cautioned him.
I showed her all the texts you sent me, Bill. So
Yes,
Okay,
he
good.
did. And just yes. What terrible corruption has gone on from him to me, not the other way around.
yeah, it's her to me. I'm a sweet, innocent Alabama boy.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, you guys should take it from here.
Yeah, I think
right?
it's probably
Best thing you did
time.
all night. Yes.
Well, we're shortening the show again, just like we are trying always. James Spann, you wanna ask any hard questions before you take us
Well,
on?
let's tell us about what you've learned. Tell us about the conference. How's it going? What's the key points so far?
I think this has been an amazing conference. In keeping in mind as well, this has not only been the broadcasters, but also communications and warning and how we communicate, how broadcasters communicate important or essential or critical weather information to the public. And I've learned so much, and I have a pick of the week, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, a short course that Jim Ledoux and set up, and I promised him I was amazed by that. I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes, but this to me has just been an amazing conference all the way around. Broadcasters, I feel good about the business, and I feel good about where we're going as far as communicating to it. And Cody and other folks did an amazing job today in a presentation that I heard on warning communication and dealing. She did a nice paper on the rolling fork tornado and some of the things they learned in the process of interviewing people that we've talked about so many times on the show, how you have to do that. You've got to remember these people have been through an amazing experience and not a good one. And to me, the conference has been very, very successful, and I commend everyone that's been part of it. I'm just here for the show. So.
Agree.
Yeah.
And like one of my favorite things was the atmospheric river talk. You know,
absolutely.
we always heard about the atmospheric river. We called it the Pineapple Express back in the day. But then finding out that the hurricane hunters actually fly that in the winter months and everything, that's what they're doing when they're not flying hurricanes.
Yeah.
And they're dropping dropsondes into that in the atmospheric river and how it affects the West Coast and precipitation and the growing season in California. I just found that truly amazing. Like you don't really think about that, but the atmospheric river, that's a real weather maker for the West Coast, and people live and die by that. So
Did they discuss whether this event in Florida right now is being assisted by an atmospheric river-like type feature?
that was some of the discussion, is like some of the atmospheric rivers, especially for the nor'easters in the winter, start out in the Gulf, and they have to analyze that properly to feed that into the nor'easter storms in the winter time. So yes, the Gulf and the Atlantic do have their own atmospheric rivers, but we always think about the Pacific and West Coast, but especially you know, they were talking about that a little bit, and it's got to be analyzed. So future conferences will learn a lot more about this.
I mean, this is a question I have. I was talking with Robbie Berg from the Hurricane Center.
Yeah.
He was talking about the inundation happening around the Hurricane Center from all of this. And I looked at what he was showing me yesterday, and I said, I mean, it looks like an atmospheric river event off of the Gulf. And he just looked at me and he said, I haven't thought of it that way.
I
And
thought the very same thing, Kim.
I don't know that, I mean, were the mechanisms the same as a typical, atmospheric river event in terms of the convergence and, like the way that the moisture feeds in, or was it a tale of just a quasi-stationary boundary that is fed off of this extraordinarily warm Gulf that has so much moisture available, and so it just rains out an extreme precipitation event? Because that happened last year too, in about the exact same place.
Yeah, they've
And
had what, 149 inches
right,
of rain
you
or something
you
in
don't
Fort
need to get the
Lauderdale?
same dynamics that are part of an atmospheric river event to get the same amount of precipitation,
Right.
because there's just so much moisture. But I'm the social scientist here, so you guys can all tell me more things. Neil is sitting next to me. What happened, Neil?
I mean, sometimes you just get these situations where you have a low and a high set up and it just keeps funneling the moisture in. And when you have like a body of water where you have a decent amount of heat and moisture flux, it just keeps sucking the moisture into the air. I mean, Charleston, I think, had an event, I think it might have been like 2015 or so, about 10 years ago. And they had like massive flooding, and it just went on like nonstop rain for like 2 or 3 days, and it broke a whole bunch of records. And it was probably the closest thing to anything like an atmospheric river that I've ever seen on the East Coast. And
Oh, was that Joaquin?
yeah, it was, I think it was the outflow boundary from Joaquin that actually interfered with like a smaller, like mid-level low, and it just kept pumping moisture straight into Charleston. And what was crazy was it was parallel to the interstate and went straight up the middle of the state, perpendicular to the coast, and it went inland really far. And I don't think what people realized was the catastrophic flooding, because they were having, but like 2-3 inch an hour rainfall up in the mountains at the same time as it was at the coast. And all that rain had to drain east. And so the catastrophic flooding was like a few days after the rain stopped. And everyone's like, oh, the sun's out. We're fine. Storm's over, back to business. And then it got really bad. That's when I remember like seeing photos from my mom's house, who lives on a hill, and the house down at the bottom of the hill, the window was at the middle of the second story window.
Wow. Yep. Anyway, sorry. I got lost in the I mean, it's a really interesting thing to think about. We've only recently started to, as we've changed the parlance from Pineapple Express to Atmospheric River.
Yes.
I think we've only really started to think about the mechanisms that can provide this extreme rainfall that can lead to this extraordinary flooding. But I do think it's going to be part of our lives moving forward.
And this is what I always tell people. We learn new stuff every year, but we learn more stuff that we don't know every year too. So, we always heard about the Pineapple Express, the atmospheric river on the West Coast. Now we have it on the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic coast. So like, what does that entail in the future? So I'm glad we have these conferences.
Agree. Yep. Back to you guys. It's been extraordinary. I've really enjoyed. I think this year the sessions have been so well orchestrated, and there's just been a lot of camaraderie too. Nate, I know you've been in the shadows, but would you like to say anything to these points? Why are you not coming over here? The beard. We need it.
We need the beard, Nate.
It's a very impressive beard.
It's a very
so coy.
Beard the beard.
Right? You were a panelist for so many years. Why being coy now, sir?
He's in hiding.
He's in hiding. He is. I don't know. I feel rejected a little bit that he won't come. He won't come on the show.
So I do have a question. Have you done any fishing since you've been here?
We never did finish that story.
No, I want to hear about the Kim fishing story, and she went with Neil, and they're both here. So obviously they survived that experience. And I saw a picture. She did pretty well.
Yeah, it was a solid 28 foot or 28 inch.
Ooh,
A whale.
the exaggeration has started already.
Wow.
I don't mean to brag, but I caught a killer whale
An orca.
on my first time out.
With Neil.
With
Yeah,
Neil.
Poor Shamu.
And it didn't try to attack your boat first, Kim. That's really good.
Oh no, it did, but I just
Oh.
fought it down single-handedly while Neil watched. I was incredible.
We have
So
to add another legend to the
Before we went
table.
out, I asked her, I was like, can you swim okay?
That would immediately put me back on land.
Yeah,
Neil,
that
at
sobers
point.
you up real quick right
That'll
there.
sober you up very quickly.
I was actually just joking around, and she's like, yeah, I can swim great.
I had absolutely no idea why he was asking. I was really excited to see where it could go. Like, okay. I mean, I thought fishing involved staying in the boat, but as long as I don't die, this is gonna be great.
No, in all seriousness.
He was closer to dying than I was by far.
Oh, I don't know about that. So
That's on brand.
He got hit by a car. Neil got hit by a car.
Yeah.
Tell us, yeah, Neil, this is a continuation of your this wasn't even a near-death experience for him, but he got hit by a car on his way to meet up with me.
It was that stuff happens all the time. It was not.
Is the car okay? We never checked on the car.
Yeah, it was fine. The driver was less shook up than I was hoping for.
Must have been a good act.
I mean, he seemed annoyed at me, and I was like, I'm the one standing on the sidewalk.
I'm the one that got hit.
Oh God.
But yeah. So Kim, that was a 28-inch redfish, which for low country standards is legit.
Can you keep them, Dr. Neil, or did you have to throw it back at this point? Was it in season?
You can. I mean, they have size limits and stuff, but I do catch and release only. I'm just, there for the entertainment value and make sure no one dies on my skiff.
Yeah, he threw the thing back and he was like, I wonder if I've caught that fish before. It's probably something he's caught like 17 times because the fish, like once it was hooked, it was like, oh no, I am not dealing with this. And it tried to like break free and dip below. There was an embankment of like oyster shells that it tried to get behind, and it would have cut our line had Neil not just like taken the pole from me to like actually get the fish.
I figured the thing would look up at Neil in the boat and go, "Oh, Neil, it's you."
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
Hey, it's good to see you again, Neil.
I know this guy.
Hello again. Hello again.
So
Yeah.
Dr. Kim, did it end up as a dish on the entree at the restaurant tonight, or did you release it?
After I got to talk to the fish some, I think this was to Neil's great delight that I talked to every little creature we came across. I really liked talking with the little crabs. That was the best. There were these teeny tiny little crabs everywhere that the redfish were eating, but they were just so cute, and they were like trying to fight each other with their teeny claws. And I talked to them a lot, and I talked to the fish. This almost 3-foot long fish, as it had its little mouth, at me. And we bonded, for a while, before we put it back and I pet it. I'm a terrible person to take fishing.
I think it's the start of a Dr. Kim's fishing podcast here shortly. It would be entertaining. The only redfish I've ever talked to was blackened. So
Did you at least warn the crabs that the fish were out to eat them?
Oh no, we had a lot of other things to talk about, like how cute they were with their little claws and how they were trying to intimidate me with their little dance. And I told them, "Oh, you're so intimidating. You're so good at it. Yeah,
you
keep going, you
validated
little
them.
crabs."
That's good.
Yeah, and Neil was looking at me from the other side of the parking lot, like, "Who is this crazy lady that I'm going to put on my boat?"
Leave her. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was the fishing tale, but we're all alive, and even the fish, and it was a really excellent time, and I appreciate, like, Neil does this. Like you are just a very excellent fisher and teacher of people.
I was pretty pleased with myself because the tides right now are like the worst for redfish of like the entire lunar cycle. And so I said, I don't think we're going to see anything, but you know, we'll go check a couple spots where sometimes I see them hanging out. And I was like, normally there, you know, if I go around this corner, there's another pile of oysters and sometimes they're hiding mine there. Pull the boat around the corner and there's like 2 of them just sitting there.
So Dr. Neal, I used to look at these Soloner tables in the newspaper, and I wondered if they were a bunch of hooey. Is there really some truth and science to all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so the fish really like water movement. So real high tides, real low tides, a lot of water movement's good. And in the really, really high tides, the fish will go up onto the flats and chase the crabs around. So if you can get a flood tide, and which is, you know, talk to anyone in Charleston, they're usually wading around in their knees at high tide. You know, the redfish really like those. So we actually we found these at low tide, and you know, they'll tend to congregate in deeper holes. And I knew where the holes were, so luckily they were there. I lined it up with them ahead of time just to make sure they were there when we got there.
So James Mann, did you get a fishing trip with Dr. Jacobs in Mobile? Y'all were right there at Mobile Bay. You could have done some amazing fishing.
No, we missed each other. I would just love to watch this man in action.
No
I'm fascinated
kidding.
by this. The guy's good. So listen, I know that everybody in Myrtle Beach wants to go to the pub. Okay, so they need to get down there. So here's we're gonna break format and let you guys do your pick of the week, and then we'll get you out. You can go down to the pub crawl. So all of you, if you've got one, let's get your pick of the week now. So somebody volunteer, raise your hand, and go.
I'm going to give the shout out to Jim Ledoux and the folks also at I want to make sure I have this right, the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety. They were here and had a great short course on, especially if you're redoing your roof, some minor, relatively minor things you can do to be able to make your house more resilient against wind and wind damage. And it just was an amazing short course. It was held Tuesday afternoon. And I want to, and Bill, I'm going to get you to write this one down. I'll send you an email to back it up. But fortifiedhome.org. Fortifiedhome.org is the website. You can look up some really cool stuff. Jim Ledoux, all the people, Mary and all the folks that were there. Great job. Well done.
That's so
Shout out.
valuable, Troy, and so timely and so important. And everybody needs to look at that information. It's going to become ever increasingly important.
Yes.
Other picks?
Right, next.
Sean, we've deputized
We know
you.
I will go with Troy Kimmel. He is my pick of the week because he is retiring off the AMS CBM board, and you know, at the end of the year, and he has been an incredible entrepreneur officer for the AMS, and so proud of him for that. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. I also mentioned Todd Glickman.
Yes.
Our friend Todd. And
You and Todd have been amazing, but
yeah,
I'm going to pick Troy Kimmel. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
You're
Thank
very
you.
That's breaking news there. Breaking news.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, sir.
So, Sean, we've deputized you as part of the panel this evening. Would you like to have a pick of the week? This can be anything weather related you'd like to share, just resources.
Yeah, sure. I got the strong hint earlier, so I'll say it. You know, SWPC, the Space Weather Prediction Center, is the nation's official source for space weather forecast information, watches, warnings, alerts, all that. People should be going to our webpage at www.swipc.noaa.gov to get this latest information, updates about what's going on out there. They can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter in particular to get real-time messaging of what's going on out there with regards to the sun and space weather. So yeah, please access that resource and utilize it.
Thank you, Sean. Yeah, great.
That's fantastic. You have a pick?
Yeah, so
What a cameraman.
Yeah, I've been operating the
Camera,
tech
just-
stuff behind the scenes. My pick of the week, and I guess I wanted to give a shout out to AMS and the summer policy colloquium. That just wrapped up last week. I spent a week up there working with the folks that took that, and it was a pretty awesome time. We did a couple trips to the Hill. We talked to representatives, staffers, Senate, appropriators, OMB, you name it. And Ken Graham, big shout out to Ken Graham, made a special appearance. His schedule's insane, as you can imagine. He was literally getting on a plane to Geneva that night and came over and talked to everyone for about an hour. So super cool experience. Be thinking about doing it next year. Registration hasn't opened yet, but I'll let you know when it does.
And
Awesome.
guys,
Any,
well, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, does Nate have a pick, or is he still being coy?
Nate's being coy. Yeah.
My pick of the week
Yeah.
is
One
Early
second.
Career Leadership Academy, which is one of the best things that AMS has done recently.
Did you guys hear that? Nobody know?
We heard it in the background. What did he say?
His pick of the week is the AMS Early Career Leadership Academy, which he says is one of the best things the AMS has done.
Yes.
That's a wonderful pick.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you all so much. And we were observing here, Ryan, your toupee is about to fly off. That thing.
Ryan, you had
That is not very nice,
Come on.
man. Like for all the years you had that patch on your forehead, and you're coming after
no,
me.
that's getting nasty.
Come on, James. Come on.
They just don't make the toupee glue like they used to.
I mean, you look like the big island up there for years and years watching you growing up. Come on, James.
That thing was in the shape of Tuscaloosa County. It was a good one. I love that patch.
And there goes the
What's
show.
your excuse? Because you're in the studio.
Yeah.
Come on, James.
WeatherBrains
Yeah.
is the weekly netcast.
Well,
That's
well,
all
well
about.
coiffed.
Mine's holding on and it's not gray. That's all I care about. So
What just happened?
Wow. Yeah, he's very sensitive about that toupee. We've learned that. It's windy on the beach. All right, guys, y'all go enjoy the pub. All right, thank you all. Great to see you guys.
Thank
Thanks,
y'all for
everybody.
doing this. It was fabulous.
thanks, James.
Good to
James,
see everybody.
Bill.
And let's go to we don't have a Tony Rice this week. We do have a Jen this week in tornado history, and we'll come back with our picks of the week as WeatherBrains rolls along.
This week in tornado history, June 20th, 1957, an estimated F5 tornado devastated the city of Fargo, North Dakota. A newer section in the northwestern part of the city was hit, and all property in an area 5 city blocks wide and 20 blocks long was destroyed. Over 1,300 homes were damaged or destroyed. Some were leveled and swept away, and there were 10 fatalities. For Thomas Grisoulis and significant tornadoes, 6 children were killed in one family. There were over 100 injuries. Debris from the tornado was found approximately 54 miles to the north of Fargo. Ted Fujita did an in-depth study on what occurred. For Thomas Grisoulis, the Fargo report was a landmark effort in both detailed mapping and in efforts to understand the tornado life cycle. In a 60th anniversary summary of this event, the National Weather Service in Fargo noted that Fujita would coin the terms wall cloud, tail cloud, and collar cloud after analyzing over 200 photos from the Fargo tornado. The Fargo F5 is listed in the Storm Prediction Center database with a straight line path length of 52.4 miles. After Fujita's work with the event, he determined this was actually a family of 5 tornadoes. This F5 was the third. Grisoulis lists the path length of the Fargo tornado as 9 miles. The National Weather Service in Fargo, in their summary, denote this 9-mile path and the fact that this was a part of a family of tornadoes. We have a detailed summary about this big event at tornadotalk.com.
All right, so let's go to James Adelot, who's got to do some television here in about 15 minutes. James, give us your pick of the week. Go.
My pick of the week is a news release from the National Severe Storms Lab touting the warn-on forecast and a 75-minute lead time that they were able to give for the tornado, the EF4 tornado that hit Greenfield. What was that? At Greenfield, Iowa. So really good stuff. We use the warn-on forecast ensembles heavily during severe weather events when it's running in Oklahoma, and it is a fantastic tool.
Excellent. All right. So my pick, it's a paper that it's got a lot of publicity. This is from Tim Coleman, Rich Thompson, and Greg Forbes. And I think that most people listening to this know those 3 guys. Tim used to be a regular on the show years ago. Of course, Rich at SPC. Greg retired from the Weather Channel. We had him on earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
But a comprehensive analysis of the spatial and seasonal shifts in tornado activity in the United States. And again, kind of piggybacks on Victor Gincini and Harold Brooks' paper a few years back of the concept of the frequency of tornadoes, the higher tornado frequency kind of shifting towards the east and southeast. And in this paper, they also identify an increase in the cold season tornadoes in the southeast down here, which is interesting. But again, if you're into tornadoes and climatology and what might be happening, check it out. We'll put the link on the weatherbrains.com website. All right, Bill Murray, the floor belongs to you.
Yeah, James, I would, if you felt like playing it, I'd take the foghorn for the pick, but if you want to pass, that's fine. It was such a fun show
I
tonight.
always feel like playing the foghorn. Yeah.
But we kind of swapped all the shows around a little bit. Tonight's guest, Sam Lilo, will join us now on the 22nd of July. Working backwards, Troy has arranged for Jeff Linder, who works with the Houston Water District and worries about their flooding. Weather Channel chaser Charles Peak will join us on the 8th. We've got two great guys from the Weather Service, Alan Treadway, Keith Sherburne, part of the National Weather Service Warning Program. They're going to join us on the 1st of July. And I guess our next show we record, which will be recorded on Monday, June the 24th, Cameron Nixon will get in his car and drive west until he gets one bar, and then he will call in and we'll ask him all those same questions that we tried to ask him a couple of weeks ago again. But that's going to be a really fun show when we have Cameron in a good set of internet. And I think we're all going to get really enlightened that night. And of course, thanks to James A. for coming up with that idea and leading the discussion that night when we get Cameron back again.
Absolutely. So we want to thank all of our listeners and viewers. If you are here for the first time, we're typically on the air Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Again, this is a Thursday night special because of vacation. Our next program will be produced Monday night, the 24th of June at the regular time. If you want to get in touch with us, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. When Jen gets back on the 24th, we'll do some emails from you. And you can watch us live on the WeatherBrains YouTube channel. Many of you listen. Whatever. We thank you for listening and watching. We hope you have a marvelous week. God bless. Thanks, everybody.
So James,
Alrighty.
what train are you taking when you're in Canada? Do you know?
I have to look through my file. It's like a day-long thing where you stop and get back on the train and keep going. So
good.
Nice.
Well, I hope you have a great
got
vacation.
a gondola ride, all kind of stuff. It looks fun. So
Wow. Where's
I'm
the gondola
excited.
ride?
It's up there in Banff somewhere. You hop on and you head up to the mountain and eat, enjoy the view, and come back. All right, guys. Thank you all.